So you're just starting your photography journey. Let's talk about it. I'm Nicholas Clayton Lee and this is Director Discovery. So I started photography 7 years ago, and that was when I was in Hong Kong still, before I came back to Canada, now in Toronto. And that was really fun because there's so much going on in Hong Kong all the time, and I did stop for a few years for photography because I was concentrating on other things, and then I kind of got brought back into it. I think it was during COVID. I didn't really have much to do, and then I tried out other things, and then I realized I still have a passion for this, and then it kind of reignited my passion for photography, and now I still love it. My favorite style of photography is still street photography. That brings me to the topic of street photography. I think every single person, especially when they're starting off with photography, should go out on the streets and take photos. Because if you want to just take photos of everything, especially when you're just starting off, that's what happened to me. I want to take photos of everything, and the best way to do it is to go out on the streets. There's so much stuff going on, and then think of it as I'm trying to capture this moment, and if I don't capture it, nobody else will ever again. This moment might never happen again. Most likely it will never happen again. And you have the power to capture it, and it's in the palms of your hands. So you can start off also with just a phone camera. That's the easiest way. But as you get better, you can get an actual camera body and test out other focal lengths and learn about other lenses. Now I have this, which is the X-T4, and I find that it's really nice having like such a retro looking camera because it gets me in the mood to shoot more photos. Whereas like even my XH2 or my XH2S, when I look at it, it's just like, it doesn't really give me the personal drive to go out and take photos. I like this retro look. I think a camera body is not that important. I think it's more important is like knowing the basics of photography, like the exposure triangle, which I will do a video on later down the road. Yeah, keep an eye on that. And also like maybe the rule of thirds, at least learn those two basic things, and then just go out and take some photos and take as many as possible. Try new things, try them all out, and find which type of photography is your favorite. There's like street photography, there's so much variety of it. I don't think you should limit yourself to one type of photography, because you can learn from other types of photography how certain people do these things and then relate it back to this type of photography that you really enjoy. So I personally think street photography is still my favorite till this day. I just love going on the streets, but I gotta say I really love going on the streets when I'm in Asia a lot more than in Toronto or in even Vancouver, because there's not as many people, it's not as lively, there's not as many things to do, and there's not as many streets. Like in Toronto, downtown Toronto, there's only a few streets. Honestly, like Kensington's pretty interesting, and then you can just walk around downtown, which honestly isn't that big, and there's not that much stuff to do. And the buildings are all pretty boring, honestly. And even in Vancouver, there's not a whole lot. But once you're in Asia, like Hong Kong is so interesting. Every single subway stop, there's something very interesting that you can take photos of, and it doesn't really end. And I really enjoy street photography because of that, because it brings you to new locations in the city. Like I never thought I would explore this, and then I'm just holding my camera and oh, what's this? And then eventually I just keep going with the flow, and then I find new places, which is really cool too. And then I just enjoy the moment, be in the moment. But at the same time, once you start improving on your photography, you'll learn to not take photos of everything, because you're more like enjoying the moment of being there, and maybe just people watching or just seeing what's around you, and just focus on taking things that really interest you. You should always treasure each photo so that you have a mood, rather than you're just doing it just so that, oh, I have something to show for. Like there are times I'd go for like 2 or 3 hours just walking around, and I'd probably take like 2 or 3 photos, and then sometimes I don't even not take 2 or 3 photos, I'll probably take like 10 or so. But at the end of the day, I probably have like 2 or 3 photos, or sometimes none. It's just like I wasn't in the mood for it, and I think I want my photos to show that there is somewhat of a mood in each photo. Like it can show how I feel at that moment. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. I do think street photography is where you learn the most because everything happens so fast and you have to adapt really quickly. And if you just miss the moment, you just miss it. There's no going back. Whereas if you're in the studio and you're doing product shoot, you don't have to deal with anyone. You just shoot the product. And some people enjoy that. I just rather have a bit more of communication, even though I'm not talking with them. I'm in that moment just trying to capture that moment. I really enjoy that. And like even in studio when you're with a model, sometimes it's just like, oh, you missed that moment, they can't get that expression back and just something, you just miss it. But like street photography can kind of train you to get those moments. That's why I really enjoy street photography, and sometimes I would force myself to do something out of the ordinary and I can test it. Whereas in like an actual photo shoot, you can't really do that. So for example, for certain lenses that I haven't used in a long time for street photography, I'll just grab it and just force myself just to use this lens for this time and see what kind of photos I can get. And I have to learn to adjust to it if it's like a very zoomed in lens, or maybe just like my 56mm f1.2 lens. That's not really a street photography lens, but if I force myself to use it, it kind of makes me adapt to certain situations. Whereas if I force myself to use the 18mm to 55mm lens, there is a lot more option, but I don't really use that for photography. I tend to use that for videos, but it forces me to use it and try to find the best out of that lens. I think you could only do this on the streets. You can't really do this if somebody's paying you for a photo shoot and you're just like, oh, let me test something. You can't do that. So go out on the streets, go take more photos. I highly recommend you to just go out and take some photos out there. And it's really nice, even if you get in trouble sometimes. I've gotten in trouble a few times taking photos of maybe kids, and then the father would like come out and yell at me and be like, delete that photo. Or like certain buildings you aren't allowed to take photos of and then they complain. I've had that, but it's just part of it. I think you enjoy it and you would find you shouldn't care. Who cares? Like worst comes to worst, you can delete, or yeah, just sneak around and grab it too, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I think if you're starting off, first thing is go and take as many photos as you want, and then learn the basics of photography, and then go back out again to practice those basics of photography. And that's where you should start with photography. And then once you learn that, it'll just become a breeze, and you're able to bring that kind of style into other types of photography. And then you should learn more about editing and all that stuff afterwards. You can start off by just taking JPEGs, which is normal because that's what I did. And then once you realize, okay, I want to add more to this photo, then start taking RAW so that you can add even more to the photo. And yeah, it's just a nice memory to have, and you can kind of show your friends. And I think at the end of the day, it's great for social media because that's what people like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm willing to help. I always love meeting new photographers, and I think we can just share experiences. And if I look at something and you look at something, it'll be different, so it'll never be the same. So you don't have to worry about competition because everyone has their own artistic way of looking at things. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you guys think. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.